So today I'm going to talk about the probate timeline. What's the general time frame it's going to take you to close out a whole probate process and close out a loved one's estate? So be sure to stick around to the end because I have something that will be a huge help for you. So stick around and I'll tell you more about that. Hi, I'm Annie Baker. I'm a realtor specializing in probate and inherited property sales, and I get asked a lot, like, Annie, how long is this really going to take? And first of all, I'm not an attorney, and this is seriously a legal process. This is what you're dealing with the courts on this one. I'm not an attorney, but I can give you some general time frames and kind of give you an overview of the process, which you're going to undertake, and it's a lot. There's no two ways getting around it. So I kind of try and think of it as 3 segments, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of a time frame for each segment. The first segment is called the petitioning time. This is when you're getting all your legal documents in order and submitting them to the court just to get the process really going. Because until you are officially designated as a person's personal representative, the person who died, until you're officially their personal representative to close out their estate, close out this probate process, technically your hands are tied. You don't have the legal right. Even if you're the only, son or daughter and your mom died a few years ago and your dad just passed and you thought everything was in order because they had a will, and in the will it just says you get everything. In California, that's not enough. A will is not enough. You needed a living trust. And I have videos about how to get a living trust and why it's so important. So again, you're a little bit late for that. Now you're in the probate process. So you think you can just start dealing and maybe selling cars, getting access to bank accounts. You can't. You need to be officially assigned by the courts as the personal representative. So it is in your best interest to get in touch with an attorney as quickly as possible because it will take some time. I have paralegals, attorneys, people I can recommend, so feel free to reach out. But what your attorney will start doing is getting the legal documents in order. Say the most common, the notice of petition to administer the estate, that's the basics, the duties and liabilities of the personal representative, and the order for probate. There's more, but you basically have these legal documents that have to be submitted to the court to get you assigned as a personal representative and open up the official proceedings of the probate. So you're going to have to go to court with your attorney and stand in front of a judge for this process. And honestly, the courts are pretty backed up since COVID, but let's just say round numbers, that's going to take 3 to 5 months to get in front of the judge. Technically, until you are officially designated and assigned as a personal representative, you have no legal right to sell anything, to access funds, to do anything. So you really got to get on that. There are times when it could be considered an emergency that you need to get access right away. One of the most common is if the house is about to go into foreclosure. It doesn't happen as often in Silicon Valley. A lot of people have lived in their houses for years, but you never know. If foreclosure proceedings could be starting sooner than when you might have the right to sell that house, get in conversation with your attorney and they can submit an emergency form essentially. So generally though, again, 3 to 5 months. In that time frame, you should still be on top of any bills that need to be paid, yard maintenance that needs to be done at the house, keeping up the water, the power. It's still a responsibility to maintain anything that needs maintenance. And you can start doing research on a realtor to help you. Honestly, make sure you get someone that understands this special niche because there's just a lot more that goes on, not just from a logistic standpoint, but emotionally, resources, and also paperwork when you go to sell the house. So you can still start, having those conversations, maybe talking to their investment advisor. You just can't make any changes to anything, but you can start doing research. So during that first 3 to 5 months, there's a lot of paperwork, being done. Make sure, get copies of the death certificate, get a handful of certified copies when you go to the county, because some places will accept a copy of the death certificate. Some people want a certified copy, so get a few copies of the certified version. Basically court documents that need to be filed. So start that process with your attorney and then start doing some researching during that time. The second phase of the probate process is what I call the administration of everything. So you have been designated as a personal representative, so you can act on behalf of the person that passed away. You can start, selling stocks and bonds. You can start selling cars. You can sell jewelry. You can sell a house. And as I said, make sure you talk to a realtor that understands the probate process, the documents, the purchase contract is different. So to receive an offer from a buyer, it has to be on different paperwork than a traditional sale. There's different disclosures. So make sure the realtor knows what they're doing just from that perspective. But here's two different scenarios. When you were assigned someone's personal representative, you could have been assigned with full rights, or you could have been assigned with limited rights. Full rights, the house sale and all these other, sale transactions are standard, said other than paperwork, but pretty standard. If you were given limited rights, that means the court needs to approve the house sale. Meaning, we get buyer. Let's just say I'm your realtor. Susie is the buyer's realtor. When I need to go to court to show the judge, hey, this was what the house was appraised at, this is the offer we got, the judge will have to give approval or not. I need to tell Susie, hey, Susie, you and your buyer should be there that day, because the judge will open it up to any other buyers. So we go to court, the judge looks at all the paperwork and says, okay, does anyone, I'm going to open this up, does anyone contest this, does anyone want to offer a higher offer, essentially? And if someone is there, sometimes there's investors that are following houses like this. Maybe it's a distant relative that they really wanted the house to kind of fight to keep it. It's sort of like an auction, and it gets dicey. At the time, I've only heard other people's experiences and of course attorneys, and it can be ugly and people can be blindsided. If the realtor didn't understand that aspect, it can really be a mess. So there's your forewarning. Use a realtor that knows what they're doing. Okay, so the administration, it's a lot, selling everything, clearing out everything, and the court will make you fill out forms that detail everything, a super detailed inventory list of all the person's, the decedent's belongings, so that there's nothing that anyone could come back and say, well, that was sold and it wasn't in the paperwork. So everything's really organized in detail. I would say expect minimum 3 months to close out a house sale, to close out car sales, to finalize any sale. I would say minimum 3 months, but it could take 8 months, 9 months, but typically let's just go with 5 months. And then we get to the final stage, is closing everything. So we are at the point where we are going to try and finalize the probate process, and it's a closed case. So this is when you have to submit all the detailed inventory list, all the documentation of what debts were paid during the administrating process, what money was earned. All of that has to be documented, presented to the courts before any of the proceeds can be dispersed between any of the beneficiaries. And during this closing time, you should have made sure that the taxes were paid. And I should mention, during the administration time, make sure taxes are done. The income tax for the decedent, any property taxes, those should be handled through the sale of the house. The title company will look for that. Any liens against the house, the title company will check for things like that. So all those things are all done, all closed. And the court just has to essentially approve everything that you've done. And assuming they do that, so short time, maybe 5-6 months if you're really lucky, if it's a super easy probate, 3 to 6 months if it's a simple estate, maybe one house, not a whole lot of other assets, and there was no one contesting this probate. Like I said, 6 months. Long term, it can take 2 years or more, depending, how many people are contesting and battling things out, and how quickly you are just able to do the sale of everything. Depends if you live locally or if you're out of state. So it is a big mountain to climb, and you need the right people in place, right attorneys, right realtors, right appraisers, right estate sale companies, right landscapers even can make a difference if they're helping you during this process and staying on task. You need the right people in place. What I mentioned at the beginning about sticking around till the end, down in the link below, I have a document that kind of outlines all the steps, just in bullet point form, so that might be helpful to print out. And if you have any other questions, never hesitate to reach out. Again, I'm Annie, and I look forward to meeting you in person. And good luck if you're administering a probate.